Dr. Akin Akingbulu. I'm the Executive Director of the Center for Media and Society. The Center for Media and Society, CIMESO for short, works across Nigeria. We also work in partnership, with similar organizations, in other parts of the world. We have been on the field for many years now, about 25 years, doing our work, and we are glad that the Nigerian environment, has accommodated our work and has benefited from it. So this is where we are. The Broadcasting Act, as a legislation, a piece of legislation, is very, very, very important because it is a policy document that defines how broadcasting is organized, how broadcasting is regulated in Nigeria. And looking back in history now, we found that it came out of the late in the years, as a military rule was taxing to a stop, and the wind of liberalization was blowing across the world. That's liberalization of the broadcasting industry. The government at that point, had no option but to put in place a regulatory body that would midwife liberalization. That is to say, that would give entry to other players apart from government institutions in the participation in the broadcasting industry as owners, as investors, and all that. I also want to say that the 1979 Constitution already made a provision at that time for private participation in broadcasting, but that provision was not given effect for a long time. So, at about 1990, the federal government, military government as it were at that time, put in place a communication policy which, among other things, provided for the establishment of a regulator, broadcasting regulator, which would midwife liberalization. And then it promulgated this decree, now an act, in 1992. And then one of the provisions of the act was that there should be a regulatory body, which we now know as the National Broadcasting Commission today. So that law is very, very important because it came into being to midwife liberalization. It came into being to give effect, to a structured organization and management of the broadcasting industry. So that's the way it is. And over the years, about 33 years down the road now, the Act, has been in operation, working, guiding implementation, so to speak, the running or the conduct of broadcasting in this country. So it's a very, very important document, very important. To score, maybe the way to go about scoring is then to look at gaps, that now exist, that we have seen, over time, in that law, gaps which then need to be filled. But then, we must acknowledge that the law has done a number of things. It has enabled the licensing of broadcasters in different parts of the country. Today, in all parts of Nigeria, you find broadcast licenses operating either on radio or as television in all parts of the country. So widespread geographically. We find that the Act has also enabled what we call pluralism, defined in this way simply, of having several subsectors of broadcasting, government-owned, commercial stations, community stations, even the ones we call campus stations. So that variety. And then in content across the country, you find different kinds of content in indigenous languages, content in English language, even content in other kinds of languages across the country. So you would say it has enabled all of those things, but there are gaps there. So if we want to gaps in the law, among them will be gaps like lack of independence of the commission, beginning with how the board and leadership in general of that commission is put in place. It's just by fiat. Government just does it, without involving stakeholders in the process. Those who are board members or director general in that place don't have security of tenure, and different kinds of challenges, that are with that, that are not in consonance with international best practices. We look at licensing, issue of independence also plays out there. The regulator is not allowed, to have full regulatory powers to include licensing. All it does, according to that law, is to receive applications from citizens who want to operate broadcasting stations, process those applications, and then pass on to other levels of government. These other levels of government are political levels, the level of the Ministry of Information, the level of the presidency. The international practice, global practice these days, is that the broadcasting regulator should have full regulatory powers, including the power to approve licenses, which the law has not provided for, which is a big gap in the law. Another gap, of course, is the issue of interference in other ways apart from licensing. One major area of interference is that the government, especially through the Information Ministry, can give any kind of directive to the institution, that's the Broadcasting Commission, and that it is duty bound to carry that out. And over time, we have seen how this plays out. It works against democratic values, the way we have seen that play out. So that's a problem. We see that also the funding arrangement for the regulator is not secure, it's not consistent, it's not well structured. It's a big issue. A broadcasting regulator should be well funded in a structured manner, secure manner, and the law hasn't made that very clear, hasn't made sufficient provisions to make that happen. So there are others. The digital broadcasting that we've been talking about for many years now, Nigeria has been in the process of managing the transition of broadcasting from analog to digital broadcasting. That has been on, but the thing continues to drag. A broadcasting law must effectively have legislation, have provisions that guide digital switchover, whether we like it or not, of digital broadcasting. Nigeria hasn't achieved that, and the thing continues to drag. That's a very big gap. We notice, for example, that the federal government, it's not as if government has not acted. Government did put in place a policy document, a white paper since 1992. It's a long time now, or 2000, a long time now, 2002. White paper, 2012. A white paper in which it said that the transition program from analog to digital broadcasting should be enabled by law, that there must be a legal backing, for it. It's many years down, 2012 to now, that's like 13 years. That has not happened, meaning that all the things that have been done by various stakeholders on the issue of the DSO, digital switchover process, are things that are not backed by law. So these things exist. Since these are gaps at this time, which have been crying for attention and which stakeholders want addressed. Thank you very much. Talking of regulatory provisions, one of the things we have seen over the years is what I'll call some kind of diligent packaging, of regulatory instruments by the Commission. Specifically, I'm talking of the Broadcasting Code, which the Commission has reviewed repeatedly, almost every 4 years. The Commission will involve stakeholders in conversation and then go ahead to review it. So they've had several editions, up to 6th edition, which was published, I think it was at 2016 or something. So they have been doing that. And each edition has always been an improvement on its predecessor, each edition of that code. However, we find gaps in the area of inclusion or inclusivity, if you like, in the provisions of that document. The provisions on how the media, will effectively, correctly, accurately cover the issues affecting certain demographics, such as women, such as young people, including children, such as persons with disabilities. Has been very, very grossly inadequate. And this is one of the things that we have captured in some of the documentation that we have done, have made available to the National Broadcasting Commission itself. Those provisions are not up to date at all. Much needs to be done in the review or reform of the regulatory instruments of the Commission, and we are hoping that they will do all of that. It's very important. That stretches also to the law, the NBC Act itself. We find several areas where inclusion is not adequately addressed, and we're hoping that in all this effort to reform that law, that will be taken care of. One example is in the composition of the members of the board of that commission. Provision is made for several segments of society, but then it's what we have seen over the years is provision for maybe one woman out of 11 members of the board, which is grossly inadequate. There is no space in that law carved, for young persons. There is no space carved for or created for persons with disability. They're on that board, which is not the best. We have also seen that consideration is not given to these demographics in terms of who can get licenses, for example. The expectation is that the law, will make provisions for these segments of society, concessions, if you like, if you use that word, or waivers for them in terms of access, to licenses. That's women, young people, persons with disabilities. So these are gaps, that we want addressed in the process of reform. The story of community broadcasting is quite interesting. When the liberalization process started in the early 1990s. What emerged in Nigeria were two subsectors of broadcasting, the government subsector, and then the commercial subsector. Community broadcasting didn't have the space that it deserved. So it became necessary for stakeholders to gather, to have robust conversations and to begin an advocacy. It was a long one. And we're glad, that at the end, government agreed to accommodate community broadcasting, which is now part of the landscape. It's important also to note, that in that process, the regulatory body, National Broadcasting Commission, was also very positive from the beginning towards the introduction of community broadcasting into the landscape. Now, since the licensing of community broadcasters started, progress has been made, and community broadcasters are now functioning in all parts of the country. You'll find them in all the geographical zones of the country. But there are actually challenges. We begin to see, that in the licensing process, attention is not sufficiently given to that subsector again. And then we find, that spaces created for them, in the licensing packages that are released, some of those spaces are now given to government agencies. A situation where government agencies are giving licenses, and then those stations are called community, which is not appropriate. The defining characteristics or features of community broadcasting are that they should be non-governmental. They are non-governmental institutions. They will be not for profit. They will serve development purposes at the grassroots and all that. So when licenses are now being given to government agencies and they are called community broadcasting, it's inappropriate. However, we want to be correctly understood. We are not saying that licenses should not be given to those government agencies. We think there is value in that. Yes, it increases even the pluralism of the sector, of the subsector. There's no problem with that. What we want is that government should properly classify them. I think they have important roles to play. You give a license to an anti-graft agency. Yes, you can use it, to engage with citizens, on the issues of anti-corruption and all of that. So I think it makes sense. You give to an agency that is in charge of education, maybe that's in charge of education for disadvantaged groups and all of that. It makes sense and all of that. So we are not opposed to all of that, but we are saying classify them appropriately. So this is the way it is. So in general, we think that community broadcasters, have been doing well. But we begin to see now that the economic environment, the business environment, which has become inclement in recent years, is also affecting them the way it's affecting other subsectors of broadcasting, but they are managing. And we think that they need encouragement from the regulators, from even the communities that own them, and from other groups, even development partners, to support them, to continue to make their impact. They are making great impact in the communities that they serve. They are development broadcasters. So the issues, that they engage are issues of development, issues of agriculture and food security, issues of health, and all of those things. Community broadcasters are not the ones, that are campaigning for political parties or whatever. That's not their primary areas of work. It is development. The issues that affect the lives of the people, the issues that will improve the lives of the people at the grassroots, and we believe, that they are doing well. They need more encouragement. That is more licenses into that sector should be approved. We think that the regulator, for example, should even have some kind of support for them, in kind or even funding, support. This is done in many parts of the world, where there is clear understanding by the government that yes, this is development sector broadcasting. Some fundings, they say community media development fund, different kinds of support that are provided for this subsector, and we think that is something that should be considered in Nigeria. Well, I see that the licensing arrangement is changing somehow as the sector goes into the digital switchover process. Now they are talking of a split in the players in the industry. Now content makers will be separate from signal distributors, especially for television. However, the way the licensing fees stand is something that we think should be reviewed, especially because the environment is becoming more and more difficult. We're told, for example, that for a radio license, if you want to be to operate in Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, so all those areas, with high commercial concentration, you pay 20 million. In other locations, like 15 million. If you are operating on campus, maybe 1 million, and so on, down like that. The conditions are becoming tougher and tougher, and I think that this should be reviewed, even downwards, not to go up at all, so that more and more citizens, can access broadcasting ownership and participation. This is my take. It's a difficult environment. Don't forget that there is also there are some additional issues, like the issue of annual fees, some kind of annual fees that the broadcasting sector is expected to also cough out to pay, and this has been a contentious issue. Some percentage on the gross of what broadcasters make gross each year, which has been contentious. But the law, has a foundation. Although the law didn't specify the amount, but it empowers the NBC to levy, to demand an annual levy from broadcasters. This is apart from the license fees that they will have paid at the beginning of at the beginning of 5 years of the tenure of a license. So that, for example, is something that I think should be looked into, possibly to wipe it out. That's that amount. How can you begin to say you levy the gross of a gross? That's really unfair, and it has been contentious for many years. And I'm hoping that in the reform of the broadcasting law, that this issue will be addressed and put to rest finally. Oh, I see a bright future. There may be challenges. I see a bright future because first, the most important thing is readiness and interest, of citizens to participate in ownership and running of broadcasting outfit, and the interest is very strong. In our interaction with the regulatory body, we are told that more than 800 licenses have been issued in this country, broadcasting licenses, and that currently there are over 1,000 applications waiting, to receiving attention, meaning that citizens are really interested. And we can see the plurality, the more the merrier. The more outlets you have, outlets each coming with its own niche, the more information, education, and entertainment will go to citizens. Issues of development, issues of democracy will be addressed. And during electoral processes, there will be so many outlets that citizens, will have content, that will strengthen them to make informed choices and make our democracy better and all of that. So, with that happening, I think that broadcasting, has a bright future. The challenges that happen, that are ongoing at the time because of the inclement economic environment are challenges that I believe that stakeholders should sit down, even with government as part of the stakeholders, to work out what should be done, to work out solutions to all of this. And I believe, that we will get answers, to those challenges, and that the broadcasting industry will continue to grow. Look at what's happening in technology, what technology is enabling. A lot of broadcasting is going on, online and all of that. So we should encourage all of this, encourage innovation, so that the broadcasting industry, will continue to grow. We should also encourage the protection of the liberty of the broadcasting industry. This is one of the key issues, that we're also pushing in the reform of the broadcasting law, that the law should prescribe that the regulatory body should, as one of its functions, protect and defend the liberty of the broadcasting industry. In addition to that, also with sustainability, should be interested and pursue the interests of sustainability of the broadcasting industry. Well, I think the future is going to be bright. There may be challenges now, but the broadcasting industry will continue to do well. This is one of the biggest broadcasting sectors across the world. See the number of licenses and see the number waiting, to get licensed. So we look forward to a great future for broadcasting in this country.